my nephews decided to get sick on the house. I woke up this morning and go, but I apologize, I'll muddle through this. I want to thank the commissioners, all the elected officials here, the county clerk, for allowing me to come in here and the public here today to allow me to present and demonstrate. I want today to be an informational type of approach to you. One, to kind of achieve four things. One is to, who I am, who Platinum is, foundation that we've built here, with the commission and the employees in the county clerk's office, the current status of your election equipment, your tabulation equipment, and your current voter registration software that is currently in place here at the county. I can review it a little bit. And then fourth and last, I'd like to kind of review sort of where the industry is going with the future state of tabulation equipment and tabulation software. With that being said, my name is Jay Bennett. I am a grandson of a county clerk in DuPage County, a son of a chief executive officer of Fiddler Election Company, and I'm a part owner for the last 10 years of Platinum Technology. Platinum has been here in the county way back since the punch card started, then through optical scan, multiple voter registration systems, and many different iterations of election management systems here from the county. We probably have printed close to, I would say, 500,000 ballots here successfully. We've implemented many elections here without any material defect or any sort of media scrutiny. For example, 2012, your optical scan ballots were the only company, we were the only company, as well as the county, that didn't have white ballots. Polling places and election of judges were taking physical scissors and cutting an 8.5 by 14 ballot to get it into the tabulator. In 2018, general primary, we were the only company, and you as the jurisdiction that didn't have wide ender cards, where they had to actually physically bring the election equipment back to the county, close out, and get unofficial election results. So the performance of what our company has done here, and the expertise in the way that we've teamed up together, the expertise that you have in your staff, the expertise that you have here in the commission elected officials, we work together, I think, is a pretty good team in order to administer elections here historically in the county. Secondly, I'd like to go through kind of what we currently do for you. We are currently under contract with you to provide two types of ideas. One, we provide election software here, and we provide a election services and products. Two contracts that we currently are contracted with you. Let's just touch about the election software. We currently manage your voter registration system here. We manage all of your early voting, all your grace voting, all your vote by mail, all your election judge training, paying, and scheduling. We manage all of the state electronic transactions for voter registration. The State Board of Elections now has started to automate the registration process. Those automated transactions are automatically coming into the system locally here in the county. Union County Platinum and Platinum's clients are the only clients, the only system in Illinois, other than the city of Chicago, that electronically brings in voter registration transactions into the local system. DMV the state board down to the Union County local system. We've been doing that for almost four or 5 years, and I think it's a very progressive thing, a very successful thing that we've done and implemented here in the county. And Brandy, that's here today, champions sort of the IVRS is becoming more of a full-time job. Under our election service contract, we print all your ballots, print all your paper applications, vote check your voters. We manage all your election equipment and the service of those particular devices to keep them maintenance and keep them into service, as well as tabulate all of your results and post your unofficial election results to the web. Lastly, I kind of want to go through where I think the election tabulation equipment and tabulation software is going, and then I want to demonstrate a little bit what the new equipment sort of looks like, and sort of demonstrate to you also how the components that are here today that you have implemented in your county fit. And there's a reason why we started to implement our software so that we did knowing that, the equipment breaks, peripherals are gonna fall apart, and that the old equipment really, they don't manufacture it, they don't make it anymore. If you were to get refurbished equipment, I'll just go over your stash of your equipment. We saw last summer that in the maintenance of the equipment that I wasn't quite sure that you guys had enough equipment to even operate, to even run the election. And the risk is this, is that your polling places begin to not be able to take ballots. And they're going to be down in what's called the security belt. Those polling places those ballots are eventually going to make it back to the county and have to be run on devices that are here. Meaning all the equipment has to come back. What devices work, what devices don't, and we're going to be running ballots here on election night, delaying unofficial election results. That is one of the risks. The second risk is your software. Your current tabulation software is on Microsoft XP, which is no longer supported. You can go out and buy XP from Microsoft, and if your tower back here in the county clerk's office was to go away, you'd have a tough time finding an operating system to fire the computer up to even load your current tabulation software. And that's a second risk that you should consider. Now, are those risks really imminent? Can you get through the consolidated election with the quantity of the turnout? Probably. It's going to take some extra equipment in your current environment to do it. But before 2020, it's something that we should really start to explore, something we really should start to consider. So what I'm going to do is kind of do twofold here in my demonstration. I'm going to show you kind of what a polling place looks like. I'll go to a check-in and vote, and I'm going to kind of show you what a early voting transaction would be like. Kind of into the counter here on early voting race. So think of your polling place. There isn't a major shock here to your procedures and processes that are currently happening today with all your election judges. We print these paper applications to vote. This is how when you check in, you sign, and we find out who you are. We find out that you still live at the valid address and that your registration is current. We're going to sign this, we're going to compare signatures, and the judges are going to do what they always do, spindle these and pass out the correct ballot style, ballot type to your voters. None of that particularly changes. In today's environment, paper is not going to work. Okay, your current touchscreen, your ballots are all here. They're not really a paper solution. A lot of peripherals, a lot of breaking parts, a lot of unsimplistic ideas here. So this would be no different in the polling place. If this was my table, I checked my voters in, they're gonna have stacks of ballots. No different than they currently have today. Just a different looking ballot. And maybe just a touch bit different of a way that we do what we call an ADA solution, which is a disabled voter needs to be able to vote on a particular piece of equipment, which this is. So if a voter's gonna check in, where they always check in, that process doesn't change. We'd be administering the particular ballot that they would get, header, precinct, ballot style, all the same that they've always done. Go to a voting booth, I'll tip pen, back, front, fill in all the ovals, simple type scanner replacement. Okay, your current, no different than kind of your current optical scan here, which takes the ballot just the same way that your current scanner does. However, the improvement here is that this scanner is actually physically scanning this document. It's not just reading the X, Y coordinates for the ovals as your current scanner does today. We'd like to think that this is simplistic in terms of opening the polls. This is you show your ballot box, your scanner. I mean, if the judge is going to come in, open the polls, it's just simply a password. And there's your report. Let's start. Excuse me. So simple, kind of open, all-encompassing type of a ballot box. This ballot box here, the front can come out, this unit comes out, no different than delivering the ballot boxes the way we know it, and then putting devices in, having the judges bring the devices in machines. We'll just cancel it. Zero report here. And open the poll. Override.
and this would open the polls. We're used to, on our current devices, there's a little LCD that allows us, when we put ballots into the ballot box, if we have an overvote, an undervote, it communicates to us what that is. Nowadays, it's kind of front and center, kind of up here. So the touchscreen is not meant for voting. Touchscreen is really meant to communicate back to the voter, whether they have an overvote or an undervoted ballot. Simply down the ballot box, no different than you know today. Ready for the next solution, for the next ballot. Okay, touchscreens. I don't know how much touchscreens in terms of polling places are really used. I'd say very little. I think I know the history of how many votes are on those particular devices. The device has been out there meant for disabled voters. Little change here. In order to give the voter the correct ballot on a touchscreen, there are all these other peripheral devices. We've got an encoder, which is simply a device here that's failing again that you can't buy. It's breaking. And at the end of the day, there's buttons on it. And each one of these buttons would represent a ballot that we would pass, a ballot we would put on a credit card to put into your current device. These are breaking. There are only 9 ballot styles. We have a lot more than 9 ballot styles out in a lot of your polling places. And at the end of the day, it's a pretty inefficient tool that the staff has to program, get it all ready to go. Chance for error here is massive. Judges do hand out the wrong ballots. They have to hit the button, read it. There's a lot of training, a lot to know in terms of how to run those particular old touchscreens. So these sort of ideas go away. One of the things on the newer ADA solution is that it just says you pass out a ballot, a large ballot. If someone wanted to vote the touchscreen, we pre-print the ballot stuff here. So they all have to do, if the ballot is known, we have this printed, is pass out either touchscreen ballot or pass out 8.5 by 11 or 8.5 by 14. So we would have this pre-printed for you at the polling place, so just think of the polling place. These are at the polling place, these are going to be at potentially here in the office. These would just be out there as a official ballot order. So that we have these out, there's nothing out there, there's no risk here, you give us a security envelope. So they come to the particular device, it will take in the ballot, it will read that barcode, and it will tell you which particular ballot style that voter is supposed to get. And they make their touchscreen choices.
They are the judge. The individual voting or the judge?
This would be the individual voting. So that the voter comes over, there's not a whole lot of interaction between the judge and the voter, because at the end of the day, the only thing that's on here, no name of the voter, nothing, just the ballot that they're going to get. N01, ballot style 1, and they walk over themselves. In they go, and they administer their own ballot. So they come in here, they can accept, and all their choices that they made are going to come out of a not wrapped up in this thing. They put it in their security envelope or security sort of folder, walk over to the device. At this point, there is no votes kept here. This is only a marking device. So if they physically look at this and say, oh, I didn't do this, spoil this, issue them another one. How many people go to the ballot box, come over here, and until it goes over or undervote, they realize they maybe made a mistake, it's been cast already, and down the box it goes. Oops, you're out of luck, you've already cast your ballot. So at this particular juncture, you haven't cast your ballot. You've only sort of made your choices. So they can look here and go, ooh, not what I wanted, spoiled ballot, the way, no, spoiled procedures, issue another one, away they go. Then come over to the ballot box. And again, it's paper driven. Top slot would take the same ballot. Procedures. These devices have to be retabulated after the election. There's a statistical algorithm the state board goes. It says you have to redo the election, post and after the election, come up with the same totals. Back in the day, you would have one of these devices, and all the ballots are in here. Bobby, you and I would sit with each other, and I'd be rolling a spindle up to you, and we'd be hashing all the votes to come up with how many votes we voted for a particular candidate to match what happened on election day. The retabulation procedures here is that this is very paper driven. If you have a discovered recount or you're going to do your retab procedures, it's just get the ballots out and rerun a very simplistic, organized fashion. One of the other ideas I do like is that when you maintain your ballots after the fact, these are hard ballots maintained. A lot of pre-marking devices out here today have tapes. Those tapes roll, and your ballots are going to be like, very, very difficult. This is a very solid way to maintain all your ballots, solid way to get those ballots back out, very solid way to retabulate and do a discovery recount if you ever have to. So it's kind of a very good stock ballot. So those are the two options of how you can vote in the polling place. Not a whole lot of shock to the judges. The judges currently do all the checking procedures, no different. They hand out the large paper ballots, no different. They would just be handing out another ballot type based upon what the voter would choose. Very different than these devices here that generally get set aside, that touchscreen doesn't get used, that type of approach. All right. Let's talk. This is sort of meant to be what looks like the counter here in the county clerk's office. People come in, vote early, they come in, change registration. What we have is you already have these systems in place. They check in those voters when they come here and vote, either make race to change the registration, add a new, or to vote early because the registration is current. This is sort of a device that Envision can be configured here so that you can pre-print the ballot styles that you can hand out. Still hand out the big ballots, that's an option. Still can hand out the small ballots, and you can print these ballot styles on demand. So we currently have our check-in process here, which would be no different. Look the voter up, verify their address, sign the application, move forward. Print here, hand them a ballot in a folder, table display. Okay? The current process in place today is to check them in that way, and there's this turnaround, go to another device in order to make that credit card ballot that goes on that touchscreen. Because there isn't a barcode ready that you can just hand that particular individual ballot and have no vote. Most of the TSXs that are out today, they turn their back to another device and they have to create a credit card ballot for them. And it takes forever. You're turning your back to the voter is sitting there waiting for you to administer it, and you're scrolling through ballot styles after ballot styles. The ballot styles, press it, pop it in, accept it, turn around, and it's the voter. It's way inefficient, takes forever. This is just a simple print, sign, ballot style, hand to them, in they go, straight down to the ballot box. And that is sort of their in-person sort of grace and early voting, which we already have these systems in place and have been running here today. We've been running for the last 10 elections at least with our new bureau. So that's, without getting into the weeds, that's kind of the high level of how the devices are used. And one of the big improvements to me is that the ballot box is great. The old ballot box is the way we knew, oh boy. That thing's all key driven, all wheel driven, locked up, and at the end of the day, we're going to be still doing it. We're still going to be able to get out these ballots these ballots and count them and rerun them. And that's the concept for where the future's going. This equipment is manufactured by ES&S out of Omaha, an American company. They've got probably 54% of the United States running their platforms. They're a very reputable company. That's what we rep for that. Questions? I know it's a lot there.
Jay, explain the cards, what we have now, the issue with what we have with the cards compared to.
Memory cards?
Memory cards compared to what we would have with this equipment.
There's an improvement here is your optical scan devices all have an antiquated old memory card that runs on a battery. Those memory cards don't run anymore, they don't exist anymore, and they fail. So we get the calls in the morning, 6 a.m., judges turn on their equipment, I got nothing, blank screen, locate a format, and we're rerunning memory cards out to the polling places. Well, those memory cards here, Platinum, I provided 22 extra memory cards in a box this last election, knowing that you need these. Because at the end of the day, we couldn't run a card out there. Those ballots in those polling places are coming back to this county to be rerun. So the peripherals are sort of going away. You come to USB, more modern peripherals. This can all be bought anywhere type of approach. Some of the peripherals that go with all the older equipment, I mean, they don't make the stuff anymore. It's that old, and they're starting to break. So at the end of the day, you do need a lot of pieces for your old equipment, and some of them aren't even available, let alone the tabulator that actually physically is going to count the vote.
Is that what comes back to the courthouse?
Correct.
Okay, how's that sealed or?
No different than your probably your current procedures. There are a lot of folks that would put them into a precinct kit type of idea, put them into envelopes. Everybody has a sealed type, probably in your precinct kit, probably Ziploc sealed in back. A lot of people have separate envelopes that are part of the precinct kits that he was going to, just like we take back the memory cards before. I think your current memory cards just come back in a sealed envelope. It's no different.
I think so,
yeah. Judge probably packs this up, undoes this, pulls this off, puts this into a bag. This gets sealed with their tape. I think the tape goes in there too. It's be a tape and a USB into the normal sealed envelope. This coming back in a bag, coming downstairs here that it always does. At the end of the day, you only have one of these now because those devices don't hold the votes. All the votes are held here in one centralized spot where they were held on two before. So every single polling place had to have two different memory card uploads in order to make one precinct report.
And Bobby, I'm speaking maybe, but as you know, Platinum offers their services, from what I've educated myself on, they are absolutely start to finish with the whole election process as far as their software, and that's very key, having the registration, the way that's all done. The cybersecurity stuff has now become the big issue. I met with a couple of guys from the state board of election, well, not actually them, but three of them, going over our security networks and all the stuff with our IT and things. So that's very important, just as much important as the equipment as well. And so it's very nice to have a company that does it all. And as Bobby knows, you used them for years, and like I said, a very good reputation around. So.
Yeah, I mean, the expertise into knowing how this all works is not something you go to school for. It's not, it takes experience. It takes elections under your belt. We've understood a lot of what happens here in terms of, there's a lot to know. I mean, there's a lot to know. It takes time, and it's sort of a foundational progression. You guys are at a point where I think the staff has been here and done a great job of getting those elections under their belt here. It's just you're having some failing equipment. Processes that have been put in place here from previous clerks and staffs here is the foundation of what needs to happen. One, to stay ahead of the security, which we have, and two, to be agile to the changes at the State Board of Election. The State Board of Election is changing in the legislature, is changing the goalposts constantly. And we're trying to, and we do stay up to date with those. At the end of the day, all these agents, I mean, even down to the DNR, you go and get your mean, it just came down. I mean, if you go in and get your hunting license, you can register to vote. That goes to the state board electronically from the DNR down to Union County. All you do is pick an address and they register. They don't have to scan documents here. They don't have to print them out like they do. All these old systems are all built on printing and scanning. Well, this is all coming down electronically now. The DMV is coming down electronically here. The address, National Chain of Address, is coming down here electronically. State Board of Elections is part of an agency where they are going out to other agencies throughout the United States and electronically feeding systems in here. You get into larger jurisdictions, small or large, it's proportional. You know, you get into St. Clair or Sangamon County that we do, they get thousands of these. You know, print thousands and thousands of documents, scan them, and data enter them. The job is becoming, you know, very difficult and becoming a full-time job to work with the State Board of Elections. We've automated a lot of that stuff and continue to make sort of those progressions. And we've made, you know, that through the last 10 years with you guys, and I think it's been a really great relationship here.
Follow up to Bobby's question, since we're using a thumb drive there, I know nothing about how this stuff is brought in, or whatever, just out of my own curiosity. Do they have, you're referring to it as a bag or an envelope that they bring this in? Is there just one, I'm assuming? There's not backup envelopes or extras go out there?
Yes,
This couldn't be tampered with?
Every polling place and precinct has what's called a precinct kit. It has what's a work set, which is basically office materials, all the forms to run the election, and then the bags to come back and reconcile and seal the delivery back. Here, it's called a transfer case.
So there would be just one for that thumb drive?
Correct.
Yes.
And it's
Okay.
sealed.
This is a transfer
It's
case
sealed.
right here. This particular box here, which has a handle and wheels, actually fits perfectly in here, and the ballots can go into it. That transfer case has been used for many different things on lock and key. And those envelopes and what have comes back here can go back in that particular transfer case, sealed, locked, and keyed back. No different than it currently happens today. I mean, the memory card that's come back today is a square. It's not much bigger than this.
Yeah, I understand. I thought that's the way you were explaining it was.
Yep.
Max, the envelope is signed by all five judges.
Yep.
When it's sealed up, and then that's one of the things they look for, when we count it, if that's still sealed.
It would be, and that's the good thing with this stuff, there's really literally no change of process for the judges, for tabulation. It's just updated equipment, it's the same ballot look. It doesn't throw the voters in a big shock, is what I really liked about that.
On election night, this comes back, this tape, as Bobby said, the envelope is signed by all the judges. This official election record is signed by all the judges, and this comes with it. Tabulation is done by the staff here. They upload this, they run a precinct report, and this precinct report doesn't match this tape. So when there's a reconciliation piece back here, I can tell you, if you don't have one of these coming back here, you're calling the sheriff, say, where are they at? Go get them. We're not going to sit here all night. We have this audit trail here, knowing what we have or don't have in terms of precincts that have been reported.
What percentage in Union County, you may not know this, maybe a guesstimate, I guess, would do the,
Very little, very little. You know,
I mean, I know we have to have some way.
You have
This
to
is more of
have,
an ADA solution, American Disability Act, because it's required in order to take care of disabled voters. Zero. It's close to zero.
we in the 18 election, just in November, nobody used the 88 machines in Union County.
It's very common for us to get this back with the memory card and do what I talked about, to see zero votes. That's very common.
So we have that now?
No, we have a gigantic,
Okay.
it's a old, and it's got that real,
The canister.
Right, okay,
always
that's-
gives you trouble.
yeah, it's what's, I'm so glad Bobby's here because, yeah.
7 o'clock, the polls close, the first phone call always made is, my touchscreen can't shut down. Because that canister and the printer housing that's on it, there's a separate arm that was retrofitted. The State Board of Elections was certifying it, said, no, you better have a printing case on it so that the voter can actually view the ballots. They retrofitted the machine after it was certified. And those printers are, if they're not perfectly set up, it says you can't go any further and shut the machine down. So here are people that, you know, you better know how to put that little mechanical thing together, otherwise you're not gonna shut it down. So what are we getting at 7 o'clock? Just bring the machine and I'll shut it down here. Pop the card out, and we're using the device to shut and close those cards down. But, you know, all those calls that we get, I mean, I was in Monroe County, I've been in Monroe County for almost 15 years doing tabulation. It used to be like we had a memory card failure in the morning, 6 o'clock, you run one out. 7 o'clock, we're good. And with 8, 9, it's to the point now, I mean, 2:30, I literally in that jurisdiction wasn't running out to the polling place because the judges are saying the ballots are going down the device, and the judges are giving up, trying to put them down. If I didn't put down the ballots myself and show them, come on, these work, they go down, but they're hard. They're getting rejected by these machines because you can't get blood on a turnip. You cannot print these ballots perfect enough anymore. Those devices and those read heads are starting to fail. So I can kind of get them down working hard, but at the end of the day, those ballots would have been coming back by the 100-fold to the county to be run that night. And we've been running ballots all night long. And that's sort of the risk that, that is sort of out there with this equipment. It's running the ballots here for 2 days. And have people go, where are your unofficial election results? Well, we're done, we're running ballots. Well, why? So that's the risk.
Having said that, as far as updating this equipment, I'm assuming it's all set up, we have to have that machine, or can we update without using that?
You can't blend them, okay, if you're asking to blend them.
Okay, no, that's what I want.
And I don't think you'd want to blend them. Back to state board elections, we kind of talked to them about doing that. And they said, we actually tried to do it once with, and they're like, no, we actually were going to key in Gem precinct results, and they just said, we're going to put this in place for early voting, and then have, what we currently have here, put out the polls. No, freak them out.
I was just asking,
Yeah.
cost-wise, if we could do a one-step procedure and then follow through to that, or if that is
One of the
possible.
major considerations during this time is to look at your configuration of your polling places and your precincts, and starting to really analyze them and say, where we have to have a polling place. Because at the end of the day, if you can start to reconfigure how your polls are set up, you can save money. I've got a lot of counties that are 1 for 1, and 1 precinct, 1 polling place. We've got counties that are going from 31 precincts down to 19 polling places. Starting to look at the configuration. At the end of the day, I mean, you can cluster these in a certain way that you can make your order to be the most efficient, and that depends upon how you're going to manage your polling place.
Well, describe, I mean, just like you're talking about, where's the weight in the polling place at, like we talked about? I mean, it's not with the getting your ballot or,
The
it's,
consolidated election, there isn't going to be.
well, not that, but I'm saying any election though, it's gonna be with the machines, because that's where you're gonna have, what we have now, we're probably rejecting and having to wait at the line there for that, so with this.
I'd much rather have a line, if you and I were here, we're done and we voted, and I'm waiting just to put my ballot in the ballot box because we're sharing one of these across many precincts, versus get them checked in. That's where you don't want the line. Get them checked in, because as you said, we're not going to do a lot of touchscreen. We'll pass the ballot out and put more voting booths out there. Put more tables out there so we can pass out more paper ballots, get them voting out of the check-in line, and you're not going to get as much pushback if 2 or 3 people are just waiting just to put their ballot down the box. They've already voted, they're sitting with the secrecy envelope, they've already made their process in the vote, and then down they go. You just go with the check-in side. So you can cluster those into, many precincts that device can put down as many precincts you want in it, depending upon what's in that polling place.
So yeah, we could look at precincts and as far as not precincts, but polling places, we could be an option as far as looking at, because we've got 20 precincts and then 12 or 14 is, yeah. So I mean, that,
What was Wayne purchased, and they went from 1 to 14. At the end of the day, they still keep independent check-in tables. Okay?
yeah.
So think of a single facility, you walk in, I'm gonna go check in over here because I'm in a 1, I'm gonna go check in here, I'm in a 2, in a 3, and a 4. I'm gonna go check in, but at the end of the day, all those voters of all the precincts are gonna put their ballot in that box. So you buy 1 for the 4. And only 1 of these, so they're hardly gonna be used. So it's more of a question, how many of those devices you really need.
So you said that's for ADA compliance, but anyone can use that.
Correct. This is also usually, is like to large jurisdictions for a early voting device, because every single ballot you can put on here. What I mean is, think about coming out here, okay? Everybody can vote here, vote early, but I have to pre-print all these ballots and have them ready for them, so they can pick them at hand. Here, in a large jurisdiction, they just go, beep, hand them, in they go. Every single precinct, every single ballot now is available. Here, you pre-print them, put them in a file folder, and I'm just gonna be going like this and handing this out. Doable,
Right,
but a lot of big jurisdictions like that for early voting.
okay. And a question, what is printing out of this?
Where?
When you came in here, like when someone comes and they put their
When
results in
someone-
there, it's not gonna print
No, no,
something
no,
out.
No, at the
But it
beginning,
is
at the beginning
printing
of the
something.
beginning of polls, 6 a.m., judges come in, put their password in, they print a 0 tape. Okay?
Okay,
They're all gonna sign that the machine is at 0, and this particular tape will stay there till 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, they're gonna close the polling place. Closing polling place here is just a button. You just hit close polling place and it prints. No ender card, no nothing, it's just a button under a key. Judge has a key, no different than they've had keys and cards before. Hit close polls and it will print the results afterwards, and they would sign that. So your 0 tape,
okay,
your result tape, and your media will be all secured back here for tabulation.
It all matches then. That's just double checking, make sure all your numbers match.
Correct.
Question from earlier when you first started. How often, you indicated, do you judge training and so forth?
I have in the past,
How often does that happen? Is that
generally,
more-
I haven't done it here where I come in and been supported part of it. I
Is
do
that
for other
more of a
jurisdictions.
local thing?
A lot of the-
Hard to do?
A lot of the staffs have done it themselves. A lot of the staffs have asked the State Board of Elections to have a individual come in here and assist.
And that's what we do.
Yep.
That's some of them are state board companies.
But in a new installation, you would want to bring them in. From an implementation standpoint, to be honest with you, the best implementation is to put this into the consolidated election because the votes are going to be nominal. You're not shocking the polling places. I mean, come 2020, we're going to get 60%. And that's a shock to a polling place. A lot of people say, well, I got all this time in between to train them getting ready. Well, at the end of the day, any changes to polling places are always sort of the hardest. Judges don't like change. They don't like where the table sits versus who they're working with. I've seen it all, but considering your polling place configuration is a large consideration in the cost of doing this. ES&S finances the equipment. They have their own financing arm. There's no underwriting in that particular, process here in the cost. So up top, I mean, this is just a quote for you. What the amount of bags, the amount of machines, all contingent upon how you want to configure those polling places. These numbers can change and be reduced depending on what you think the minimal order needs to be. And you might buy and phase this over time. You might buy in one budget enough just to run a election, knowing that you might have to pick up X in other year in order to pick up the volume where you might be having lines. So the top idea are the 2 scanners. So 20 of these, 20 of those is what we're quoting. Okay. These come with bags, and quoted that. Privacy screens. At the end of the day, folks need to have privacy to go out here. Their stands that essentially go around so the voter can actually stand at it and not have people looking, at what they're touching. That's sort of the hard equipment in that first section. Software, electionware. You currently pay a license fee for a tabulation piece of software. It's already in the budget, current Union County budget. That is almost a replacement for what you currently pay. I think it's a little bit higher.
which
I don't
one,
know your GEMS license, but there are current budget items that are already in your current budget to just get replaced with something that's important.
that's what I'm wanting to know, which ones they
Yeah,
are.
it would be your electionware software, the 13.4.
Okay,
You look at your GEMS license fee, which I think is 9,000 or 10,000 bucks. It's a little bit more expensive. Your GEMS tabulation is the XP. That is sitting on a device over here that potentially may never be able to be recreated. And it's not a secure piece of software by any stretch of the imagination. It's 1980s built.
So the gym software is one of the contracts that you say we're currently in. So how
Correct.
does that work if we change it and that contract's not up? Because I don't think it's up till,
ES&S is how I think you pay it to. ES&S would waive that, so
okay.
whatever fee would be. We just took Wayne County. Wayne County has gyms. They took this, they're purchasing to implement in the consolidated. We just give them a credit.
Okay.
Yep, they credit their gyms fee because you're not going to use it. Yep, exactly. The ExpressLink software it's just an option for you. That's the software that runs this printer. If you wanted to run this printer at the polling or at the early voting here at the counter, you would have software that runs this and puts the ballots down on this header. Do you have to have it? No. If you want to continue to pass out paper ballots, we print on demand out of our system. So we usually have a ballot order. If you want to continue to hand out paper ballots, you can strike that. That $4,000 there, you can strike it because you're not going to implement this. You can configure this in a way that you want. Your normal procedures are going to hand this out on demand. If you don't want to use this for early voting, as we were talking about here, you don't have to. Might be too much for the people checking people in. Keep it simple. Okay? Don't use this device.
Is that all that printer is for, is for early? I thought it printed the small
88.
ballots.
It does.
It prints the small ballots, it puts the ballots down on there, okay?
So we have to have it though for the small ballot.
Yes.
You wouldn't have to have it, okay? You, in early voting, may not put this device out.
Well,
A lot of people don't.
If we've got the device, we can't use it without that though in the general election.
You can use it without. Another option to use it. If I put a blank ballot in here, and no header on it, it'll put a directory. You pick it. I don't think you want that. However, here, you don't have to put this out in
Right, I
early voting.
understand that.
In the polls, you don't have to have one of these for every single polling place because we'll pre-print this for you. Platinum will deliver this pre-printed with the header on it, ready to go. It'll come packed, shrink wrapped up. So all you have to do is pre-print, we just hand this out. Instead of having this printed, we'll print it back in our commercial print facility and deliver this pre-packaged for you. So all you have to do is hand it out when you have to use this device. So it can be configured both ways to save money.
So is that, the cost of that, you printing all those included in here? Or is that included in a contract we already have with you
It's
guys?
probably including the contract we probably already have with you guys. We haven't been printing those small ballots for you, but it's not as expensive as printing the big ballots by any stretch of imagination. Because we actually have to print the full artwork. There's a lot of risk in these ballots. These ballots have to be accurate and correctly configured. So there's a configuration piece.
Do we have to have the ADA machine for early voting? You said no?
You don't have to.
Okay,
I
but
mean,
probably have to.
you know, at the end of the day, to have one up just in case a disabled
Yeah.
voter might come to the courthouse, you can have it up. You wouldn't have to have that printer. You could walk over, have a judge help. A disabled voter happens all the time. Put in the blank, have the judge help them pick their ballot style, and ready to go. So if I put a blank ballot in here, it's going to list all the ballot styles. Then you're just going to need judge assistance. And that might be a consideration to configure the way things run here in terms of early voting. Third-party product software, that 4300 is actually a physical laptop with all the software to run it. So if whatever software on the top line, the GEMS equivalent software would be on a laptop that you would get, one-time fee, 4300 for all the software on a laptop.
And what do we use the laptop for?
Use the laptop for when these devices come back. One, to put the election on there, the database that goes with this configuration on the USB, we place data on there to be prepared to take it. Then when the results are done, we need to go back to that laptop, plug it in, and pull the results out. We have software that does that on that laptop.
It's gotta be.
And it needs to be a dedicated laptop that's only
Yes.
used for that purpose?
Correct. Correct.
That's part of the cybersecurity stuff as well.
And you could probably,
To implement this, I mean, to bring all the equipment down, to have, you know, the manufacturer come and to implement this, to unwind it, QC it all, make sure that everything is ready to go and train you on this is what the next set is. So it's a one-time, you know, charge. Then you get that into a grand total. That is essentially software 1 year 1 year's worth of software, the installation that doesn't reoccur, you could take that number and finance that number. And they've been financing people at 399. Now, do I think that, do I think the federal money is gonna come for 2020? I mean, if I could predict it, I wouldn't tell you as much as I could, but I think there's gotta be. At the end of the day, I would recommend no one not finance this. Because if you ever got federal money come through, you're gonna pay off the loan and prepay the loan. And limit the financial, economic exposure to cash out of county by financing. I'd much rather see you guys make 12 payments and have a grant come through to pay off the remaining piece, and you get reimbursed for the remaining part of this particular cost.
Probably should know this, are all our machines now the same age, or have they been
Pretty much.
alternated?
Pretty much.
And we were able to get federal grants from the state investment. Which,
Sure. The economics of this, if you really want to get the economics, you're going to take a look at how much your election judges that you're not going to pay by consolidation, how many pieces of equipment you don't have to buy based upon polling place configuration. That's a huge one, big one. Be able to take a set of 5 judges, 3 judges, and not have them administer that polling place because you might shrink it is another cost factor that was always out of this idea.
So I just want to make sure I understand the way you've got this set up, the whole top section are like one-time costs, and then the bottom section is what's reoccurring every year?
Correct.
We
Okay.
pay that.
You're reading correct. And a lot of what's down in the bottom section, you've already have budgeted in.
So we budget.
So the hardware maintenance that you have here on the 2020, which is the firmware, which is the guts, hardware maintenance is sort of segregated into 2 sections, the 20 and the 20. You currently pay us hardware maintenance in the budget right now.
Is that the gyms?
And we actually, no, that's to actually physically come here and maintenance the equipment. We get it out, we test it, we clean it, we make sure that it's all ready to go prior to an election. That's a budgeted item. Those first 4 items are already budgeted into your current budget.
The first 4?
Yep.
Okay,
The pre and post.
And then that's the reoccurring gems,
yeah, that's the
which would
gyms.
be already in your budget to a certain extent.
Okay.
I just can't wait till the day that we don't get phone calls anymore. I'm past that. You guys would, if you come on election day and see the amount of phone calls that are made back to the individual counties in Illinois, it's becoming troublesome. And I just hate to think that it's gonna find a county, large or big, where it's gonna, machines are gonna be coming back to the office. And that's what's gonna happen. So,
What's the life of these machines?
good question, great question. The life of what you currently have put in place has been almost 15, 20, yeah.
What about these new ones? About how long
I
are
would say
they
it's gonna
supposed
be up there too. I mean, think about USBs. If you wanna take a look at what these memory cards are, these memory cards are like steel
Remember those zip drives?
Mhm.
Zip, like, it's like.
with a battery. You take a battery out of the thing, it's a little circle battery, push in the thing, you've got all the teeth that come in and you put it into, it's not even a PCMA card. It is, GEMS was created in McKinney, Texas by Global Election Systems in 1981. That's the system you have implemented here today. In peripherals that all are there today. Are USBs going away? No, USBs are pretty universal. We're starting to have a little bit more universal pieces.
And are those special USBs that
No.
come from your company, or we can
Yeah.
buy them anywhere?
That being a scanner as well is big because that way, because the lines, you explain how the dots work on the ballot and that's how it kind of.
You'll have other folks come in here and you saw how the ballot went down here. A lot of what's out there, there's only really 3 other companies out there doing this. Dominion's doing it and having similar sort of idea. You're not gonna find anything out there in the United States that's different than a pre-marking device because everybody's going to paper. Meaning that touchscreen device is gonna come out with paper. Okay, 3 other companies do that. One is Malaysian owned, doesn't have very many accounts. 2 is Dominion, which is the 2nd largest election company in the country, and their scanner here scans the same, but it's 15 seconds for that to go down the ballot box. They turn it off in their demo, the scanner, because they can get it to go down in 4 seconds. because it's going through the scanner, it's holding it at the end, and it's scanning the document, and it's 15 seconds, and then it drops. Then the next voter can come. Here's just 4 seconds all in. So this is physically scanning that document. So if you have a write-in, you go back to your software on the laptop, it will actually, when you do a bubble for a write-in, the voter has to write something in there. So it's taking an image of that. Your judges assemble all those write-ins and make it to match them up to 2 forms. Because not every write-in is approved, so Mickey Mouse gets thrown out and what have you. But you, at the end of the day, can print out the write-ins out of the software because what they wrote has actually been scanned. So you can run a precinct report and say, what are my write-ins? And check to see if the judge made any mistakes without even getting those ballots out.
Write-ins are big on this next election. Because we'll have, I know for a fact, at least 2 or 3 write-ins probably in this next consolidated election.
It's normal processing, judges.
Any other questions?
The timing marks that were on the couple ballots.
Okay.
You have a lot of information on those. You don't need that for the new system.
This ballot's a lot more forgiving. Okay, you very much know, you and I both could take an old optical scan ballot, you and I could go like this and go, that's gonna run and that's not gonna run.
Right.
You and I both know that is sort of, this has become a very unforgiving ballot, what you remember, and I remember back in the day, for sure. It's easier to print. So Pulaski done it, Pulaski has this whole setup. She actually started to do more, she was Julie down there. When people started to do this in their second election one, we print all of her stuff, do this configuration. Wayne's moving forward with it as well. So what we do for you is no different. We can print this ballot for you. Our services are essentially the same. It's just sort of replacing the devices that do it all. You still have to have this printed. You still have to lay the ballot out. You still have to do all that prep work.
You say the financing was 5 years? Was it?
I've seen 5 years at $399.
Okay.
Lots to take in.
Appreciate it, very, very good explanation, and appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're definitely looking at this, I mean, we kind of tabled it in the budget for the time being until we see what we can do and what we can't. But you give
It's got to be on the radar.
You've given us some good ideas, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Very good.
we will move forward and be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think we have anything for executive session, right? Any committee reports? I talked to animal control yesterday. They are up to 7,000 as of yesterday in their donations. They got 1,500 to go. So they may get there before the weekend. Any other business? Anybody have any more on soldiers in here? You got anything good to say, or you just here?
I'm just here visiting, just
Oh, we're glad you're here.
hope everyone had a good Christmas and look forward to a great New Year.
We appreciate it. Something like this ought to take down our liability costs a little bit, I think.
Oh, sure.
Getting there, thank you. Any public comments?
We do have, if you're talking about consolidating, this is probably something you already know, consolidating more of the polling places, you probably want to do a little bit of research on how many of the people are voting who are out of, like, for instance, Alto, if you were to consolidate that with Hopkins, or you need to maybe do a little research on who is voting out, like on Milligan Road, and how much further they're gonna wanna drive to go to a different polling place. Just, we want more voters to vote, we don't want less voters to vote, and if, you might also wanna think about if you do end up consolidating, mailing out early voting applications to the people who are in the outlying areas who may not come in to vote, because people aren't going to want to go any further, than what they do now. So that's just a food for thought that I was thinking when we were talking about consolidation. I understand the cost and also the difficulty of finding election judges. That's probably more than anything. But just be aware, be aware that those people in those outlying areas probably aren't going to want to go any further. So you might want to do a little research and see. They may not vote now anyway, but, I would think that our whole intent is to get more people to vote. So just a food for thought. I'm sure you thought about that already, but.
Thank you, sure, yeah, we have, we would definitely.
That's a big consideration, yeah,
That
absolutely.
is a concern, so,
There's statutory requirements to do it too.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure there's limits on what we can do, we can't do. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Commissioner Pitts?
Yep.
Commissioner Toller?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.